Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Adrian Pandev, business and immigration attorney, and today we're going to talk about which types of businesses are best suited for an E-2 visa. So before we go any further, let's go over the E-2 visa requirements. So an E-2 visa is issued to someone from a treaty country. So first and foremost, you got to make sure that you're a citizen of a treaty country. Then you have to make a substantial at-risk investment into a U.S. enterprise, into a U.S. business. So what that means is the investment cannot be passive. It can't just be money sitting on a bank account. It has to be a committed at-risk capital investment into this U.S. business. The business itself has to be real, active, and ready to operate upon issuing your visa. You're going to be entering the U.S. to develop and direct this business, right? So your role is going to be one to manage and direct the business. And finally, the business must generate enough income to support more than just your living expenses and your family's living expenses. Now, before we go into the various types of businesses, one thing to note, and it's really important, is all businesses qualify. I think this is one of the most amazing parts of the E-2 visa is that you're not limited in what you can invest in. You're not limited into the type of business you can invest in. So I tell everyone, look at your skills, look at your professional background. What are you good at? What is it that you actually want to do, right? Maybe you don't have experience with what you want to do, but you really want to try something. I see this very often with E-2s where someone is changing careers or sold out of a business abroad or wants to end their career abroad, and they're going to try something new. I mean, it's an awesome way to do it, right? I think the fact that there's no restrictions on the type of business is amazing because it lets you explore businesses outside of your background, outside of what you have done in the past. And my advice is to use this to your advantage, right? Now, if you have a business abroad or you are already engaged in a certain type of activity abroad and you want to bring that to the US, that's perfectly fine. But I do want to encourage everyone that you're not limited to your background. You can try something completely new and something you don't have experience with. So let's talk about businesses that are not well suited for an E-2 visa. So to put it bluntly, passive businesses, right? So passive investments. So think real estate, stocks, money sitting on a bank account. These will be viewed as passive. The reason is they don't meet several of the requirements I mentioned earlier in the video, right? So the question I often get is, hey, we own a home in the US, I own a condo, apartment, a house. Isn't that an investment in the US economy? Well, yes, it's an investment in the US economy, but it's not a real active operating business. It's just a piece of real property, right? It also is not at risk in the sense of an operating active business because you can sell that real estate and that way exit the investment. It's not the same with an active operating business, right? Now, and the same thing applies, just to say this, right, to stocks, just cash in a bank account. The idea is it is not committed, at risk, an active operating business. However, I work with real estate investors a lot. I work with a lot of private equity clients, a lot of people who are actually making these real estate investments, and they trade stocks and other financial instruments and do qualify for E-2 visas. So how does that work? Well, there's a difference between I own a property, or maybe I own two properties that I use for vacation, and owning a real estate management company. So for example, say you are purchasing several properties and you're renting those out. You have a property manager that manages them. You have booking software for your short-term rentals that are booking them. Well, that's a real active operating business, and you have all those other expenses beyond the real estate itself that would qualify for an E-2 visa. And we've done several of these, but again, it's critical to go from I own some real estate passively to this actually being a real estate business. I've done, real estate developers, real estate management companies, individuals who buy and sell, right, flip houses. Those are all active businesses. And yes, they require a little bit more explanation because real estate usually looks consular officers often view real estate as passive, but if you're able to explain to them that no, this is an active, real operating business, it just happens to be in the real estate sector, that doesn't necessarily preclude it. Similarly with financial investments, right? Whether it's stocks, other types of financial instruments, if it's an actual business and you're trading and investing, and I see this often with private equity groups who acquire various different types of businesses, well, that's going to qualify for an E-2 visa because, again, it is an active, a real operating business rather than I just bought XYZ stock and am holding it in my Charles Schwab account or whatever it may be, right? That's not the same. So when evaluating whether a business is a good fit for an E-2 visa, look at the rules for the E-2 visa and see if the business is a good fit and actually meets those requirements easily, right? So for example, a business that requires employees will help with the marginality requirement, right? Because it will, by definition, if you have, I'm making this up, 5 or 10 employees, the business is generating enough income to go beyond and provide for more than just you and your family's expenses, right? So businesses that require the employment of several employees are a good fit for an E-2 visa, right? Similarly, businesses that require higher upfront cash expenses are a good fit because there is a bigger initial investment, which is what the visa category looks for. So for example, businesses that require the lease or purchase of real estate, whether that's a retail space, a warehouse, an office, right? That's going to bring up the investment figure. It's a good fit for an E-2 visa. Similarly, businesses that require the purchase of inventory or equipment or any sort of resources for production, they're going to be a good fit because you're by default making a higher cash investment to acquire those goods. Now, that being said, right, yes, these types of businesses are a better fit. I tell everyone, don't follow these rules blindly because, again, the beauty of the E-2 visa versus many other visa categories, right, is that it gives you the flexibility. So look at what you want to do and see how you can build an E-2 case around it rather than immediately disregarding any idea because it's not a perfect match for the rules. And I really mean this. I've done E-2s for so many different types of businesses, from consulting companies that don't require a ton of employees, professional services companies don't require a lot of employees, tech startups, e-commerce businesses that don't require physical office or retail space. I've done, like I said, a lot of private equity, wealth management, a lot of financial services, manufacturing, literally so many things, so many businesses that initially when you look at them, they don't neatly fall into the rules, yet with some adjustments, with focusing on the right things and a good business plan and explaining the business well to the officer, they do end up qualifying. So although these are the general guidelines of what you should look at as you're thinking through your E-2 business, my number one advice is focus on your goals, focus on your business plan. Obviously work with your investment advisors and all advisors to pick the best type of business for your goals, and then the E-2 strategy can be built around that. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. If you have additional comments or have other topics you want me to cover, please feel free to put them in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please like it and follow the channel, and I will try to put out more content that is hopefully helpful to all of you. Thank you again. Bye.